Hey everybody, Dave Finale here, Real Estate Skill Builder. I want to welcome you to episode 66. That's right, 65 weeks in a row we had an extra one. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF. We know what the TGIF stands for. That's right. Thank God it's finale. That's right. That's me. Thank God it's finale. And we know it's Friday, but it's thank God it's finale. That's me. And I'm very honored, as I am every week, and privileged with having a guest. And today it's Frank Dippold of United Mortgage, who has some really interesting and different ways to look at investing and how to figure out if you're going to make a good investment. But Frank, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.
So we want to talk about you first. Like, one of the things I always do with my guests is I ask them what their story is, right? Like, where did you come from? Where did you start? Where were you? You didn't start here, but here's where you are today. So give us a little background as to where you're from, where you are, where you were, and what you did.
Sure, no problem. So I grew up in Livingston, right around the corner, local Jersey town. Great place to grow up. Was a high school baseball and football player. Had a lot of fun playing college baseball. Signed a minor league contract for a couple of years in the Minnesota Twins organization. Then played for the Yankees in 1995 during the strike. So that was fun. And it's funny, we laugh because the strike did more for my resume. When I got interviews with CEOs of companies, they thought it was really cool that I played for the Yankees. And I didn't have a great minor league career. It was quick. And I got into the telecom business in 1996. Back in the day when you could sell phone systems and you did the local, the long distance, the whole 9 yards. Worked for a company called Net 2000 that actually went public in 2001. I thought I was a multimillionaire, but the stock ended up being worth nothing after a year when I could sell it. But in the mid-90s, 96, I bought my first property because my family offered me my grandmother's house. And quickly, within a couple of years, I had 3 or 4 properties, all as rentals. I was a big rental property guy. So right. In 2001, when the telecom business blew up and it was hard to make money, I stumbled onto a company down in Edison, New Jersey that said, hey, why don't you sell some loans? And I was always intrigued by that because I had my own real estate and was always, certainly part of that process. So in 2001, it was kind of easy to get loans. Rates were coming down. Refis were easy to get. Stated income loans were prevalent. And in my second month, I did 3 deals and I was making money. And there you go.
Wow. So you went through a lot of different things. You played baseball. That's really cool. And of course, with the best team in professional baseball ever, the New York Yankees, my team. So talk to me about the businesses you were in prior to getting into mortgage. Talk in deep on what you did there.
Yeah, at Net 2000 was an awesome, awesome job. I started as a sales manager. I ended up becoming the general manager in New Jersey. I had 70 people working under me. And that was back in the day when they passed a tariff in 1996 for local companies to compete with Verizon for the local and long distance. So we were going into businesses and we were selling them local and long distance.
Right.
And we were super aggressive. We had a lot of fun. I used to go to corporate once a month for these corporate general manager meetings. And we were just crushing it. Unfortunately, after going public, when September 11, 2001 happened, the company lost a lot of their revenue that ran through a switch at 111 8th Avenue. And literally on October 21st, the company had to file bankruptcy and I had to get rid of everybody that worked for me, including myself. So it was like Armageddon. It was like, obviously the world was a different place because of 2001. And then, 4 weeks later, not even 3 weeks later, there was no job. So, but I had 4 rental properties and I had a wife who was working and I just kind of looked around and said, what should I do now? And that's when I got into the mortgage business.
So tell me about your start in the mortgage business and what, were there anything that held you back in the mortgage business? Because you had succeeded so well before. Were there things that held you back?
I look at what I thought was luck back then and realized that, there were great blessings that I had gotten in my life. Like, it was not just a coincidence that as soon as I got in the mortgage business was a hot time. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was doing like 5 loans a month. And that was back in the stated income verified asset days. And we all remember Countrywide Home Loans, and the media talks all these bad things about country life, but they had a very good system. And the system was a stated income, a verified asset, put it through their system, brought it to their, underwriting office in Roseland, New Jersey, and we closed loans. So honestly, I didn't struggle until 2007. I was blessed early, did a lot of loans, started a company in 2004 with a partner of mine that I brought in the business that I grew up with in Livingston. He was a high school baseball teammate of mine. And what happened was we were on a rocket ship. In 2004, we started. In 2005, we had 60 employees. In 2006, we had 120 employees. And in the summer of 2007, when the guidelines changed, we got run over by a train in one day. One day, we had 80% of our loans that we couldn't do. So the struggle wasn't early. The struggle was after 5 or 6 years of success.
Wow. So then you moved to 2007, 8, and 9. What was the evolution of you and your company?
Well, it was tough because I got ahead of making cuts and changes in 2007 to reduce our staff, our salaries. And when you're in the mortgage business, you do pre-approvals, say in March, to realize revenue possibly in July or August, because A, the people have to find a house, or B, the loan has to come in. And by the time you close that loan and sell that loan, it could be 90, 120 days. So I cut costs by 80% in June of 2007, but it wasn't enough. And we literally lost $500,000 in 1 month because I had 13 offices. We had branches all over the place and infrastructure that you pay for in March and April that you don't realize revenue until July or August. But the revenue never came because the loans didn't close because the guidelines changed. So by January, February, my partner and I were looking at this company and we had like 9 people left. And we were like, what are we doing? And we were bleeding out. And I had spent $700,000-800,000 just to keep the company open. And so I decided to shut the company down. I got a nice offer from Wells Fargo as a branch manager in Hoboken. Looking back now, in 2009, the HARP loans came out and a lot of stuff happened. So I kicked myself for shutting down the company because I didn't have to. And I'm more of an entrepreneurial guy. So working at a big bank like Wells Fargo wasn't my ideal job. But I did learn a ton about condo approvals, co-op approvals, the inner cities, how the big banks looked at things. So I feel like everything that I did in my career was necessary to get me to the place I'm at now. From going from an entrepreneurial ownership position to a branch manager position to then getting back into the correspondent world, mortgage banker world in 2010, and then eventually starting my own company again in 2013.
So you literally went from here to here to here, and now we're back up there and doing, well again, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great correction. I wouldn't have called it great back then because, I took a financial bath, not only in my mortgage company, but also in my real estate and this is one of the things I teach at the seminars. In 2005, I started to get outside the formula of the yield of the cash flow. I started to make stupid, prideful decisions like, let me buy in a cool town in Colorado, or let me buy in Sarasota, Florida, where I know values are going to go up. I teach people never buy real estate for appreciation. That's not the formula. That's bonus. You buy things for cash flow. You buy things for yield. So the correction happened for me, in sort of 2 fronts, because the mortgage company went down and then so did my real estate. So, the idea of like getting run over by a train, I felt that personally as well. I say it was great because now looking back, it has helped me really identify what the right way to buy real estate is, what the right way to run your mortgage company is. And those corrections were necessary for me to be able to teach and train people now.
Okay, so now we're getting into the meat of some really good stuff here. You used the word yield a couple of times, right? Now, to a seasoned investor, they understand that word, right? But to new investors, and I'm going to tell you that one of the things that we look at today is if you're going to work with commercial investors, you're going to work with any investors as a real estate professional, you should understand what all these terms are, number one, and probably also be an investor yourself, right? So talk about yield and how you teach and coach people to buy properties using that word.
Sure. So yield is when you take your cash flows, your yearly income from the property, which is derived by your gross rents minus your mortgage payments, your taxes, and your insurance. So it's basically, you bring in 20,000 a year, your cost is 15,000 a year, your yearly profit is $5,000. Simple math. You divide that number by the total down payment that you have to put on the property. So say, for example, in my seminars on a 2-family purchase, it's a $9,480 yearly income. That's after all expenses. In this example, it was a $350,000 purchase. 20% down is 70,000. So if you take the 9,480 divided by the 70,000, it's a 13.5% yield. So if we put those numbers up against any financial planner, A, they're very solid numbers. B, you're looking at what you're making on the money you invested. But there's also a bonus to that. The bonus is the amortization of the loan. The tenant pays down the loan for you. In that example, the amortization of that loan is another $4,520, which then makes the yield 19.7%. So if you can get a property that has 13.5% yield and 19.7 by paying the loan down, and you get the bonus of appreciation in the future, it's a no-brainer. I tell people in my seminars, 11.5% yield or more, it's a good property to go look at.
But okay, so going into that yield process, and one of the things I've discussed with you, and I looked at how my dad bought a lot of real estate. He was in real estate for a long time, and he was, he started back in the 60s, actually the 50s. I take that back in the 50s through the 60s, 70s, 80s. And of course, when I started working for him, I'm doing the numbers. But one of the things he taught me was, Dave, if it pays for itself, for me, it's good investment. Tell me about what your thoughts on that statement is, because a lot of people will look at it that way. So I'm not saying it's wrong or right or anything. I'm just saying, give me your impression on what that scenario means.
Sure. So that's a great comment. I feel like if it breaks even, it's losing money because you're not making any cash on your down payment.
Oh, we froze. I don't know if you're still there. Frank, you there? You froze. Somebody give me a comment. Make sure you can hear me, or did I? There you are.
Yeah.
We froze.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. So let's go to the question again, because you froze as you started answering it.
No problem. So I think breaking even is actually losing money because there's two factors. There's the factor of your down payment has to make money, because if it's not making any money with inflation, it's actually losing money, right? Because inflation is outpacing the cash. Number two, because you're kind of burying that money in the house for a while. But number two, everybody wants to think that there's no repairs that are going to ever happen. Like, oh, I got the best house, never break down. It does. So there's got to be some cash flow for that. And then there's also vacancy factor. So after 12 months, maybe somebody moves out, maybe it takes a month to get a new tenant in there. So that's why I talk about an 11.5% yield or more is a good rental property, because it takes those things into consideration when evaluating a rental property. Now, could you get it for 6%? Could you get it for 7% and it still become a good investment? Sure. I'm just trying to train my people a percentage of yield that becomes a no-brainer. And that no-brainer is 11.5% and north of that.
All right, so what about these people that are so hyped up on this thing called cap rate and how they want to buy something? Yep. Can you give us any light on that subject?
Sure. So cap rate is really, the cash flows you're making on the property. So that's great. But what cap rate doesn't consider is how much money you have to put down. The yield considers how much money you're putting down and what you're making back as a return on that money, right? So I want to make the argument that I can go up against any financial planner in the country. I don't care what they say they're going to make it in return, because I'm going to show you the power of using the bank's money to buy the property and the power and leverage of using the tenant's money to pay off the property. And that's the thing that people don't really get, because we're not computers and our minds don't understand the compounding value of interest. The compounding value of interest allows us to grow this entity at 8-10 times the clip. Why? Because with $10,000, you can buy 5 to 8 times the amount of real estate. And that's what people don't understand. See, the financial planner is giving you a percentage of return dollar for dollar. I'm giving you a percentage of return 5 to 8 times the dollar because that's the leverage of the bank's money.
That's really a great point. Really a great point. So we talk about yield in a sense of investing, and how does the so they've always said, my dad always said, talk about my dad a lot, sorry, but my dad always said, real estate is like the best investment. He never invested in stocks, although he had a couple here and there. He actually had I think 10 shares of public service, electric and gas, so he had a right to bitch and moan. That's what he told me anyway. But he never really got into stocks. He said real estate is one thing that is tangible. You can hold it in your hands, right? He says real estate, they're not making it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So when we talk about yield, we're talking about one property, but that also can help you advance and to purchase more and to build on top of your investment, right?
Correct. So what happens is what I did in the 90s very well, and it was really more blessings and luck than anything, is I bought my first property at a really good price because my family had to sell it to me because my grandmother had to go to a nursing home. And so we got it at a good, reasonable price, my uncle and I, and we had equity in it pretty quickly. And so I took out of property A and I bought property B. And people are afraid of debt. See, the problem is America has a messed up money makeup. It actually goes back to the stock market crash in 1929 when, grandma and grandpa or great grandma and grandpa lost their houses because their savings and loan crisis, the banks would say to them, you have to pay off your mortgage tomorrow. Well, they couldn't even get food that day, so they couldn't pay off their mortgage, so they lost their house. But I'm digressing to a little history, but I think it's appropriate.
No, it is
In 1937, FDR passed a New Deal, which made it so that the loan notes could be sold, but the terms and condition of that loan could never be changed. Meaning, if you get a 30-year fixed and you're paying on time, the bank could never say, give me all the money today. They could sell your loan, but they can never ask. So it's a protected product by the government. So fast forward to today. People's money makeup is a little messed up. And what they do is they don't want more debt. And I just had a conversation the other night at one of my seminars, and a lady has $50,000 in equity in her primary residence. And she's like, I really want to buy real estate. Okay, so we're going to take a little money out of your primary residence for the down payment in your real estate. But then I'm going to owe more on my primary mortgage. I said, not really, because if I show you how to find and identify the right property, that right property is going to have $700 to $800 a month cash flow. So not only are you going to be paying back the money you borrowed against your house for the down payment, but it's actually going to be helping you pay your primary mortgage because the tenant's giving you additional cash flow. So debt is actually good if it's structured the right way. But people are afraid of it because they have the wrong mindset.
Right. And the word leverage is what it's all about. I mean, as you build the equity, you're going to use that equity to advance your investments, right?
Correct.
Right. So I mean, as far as investments are concerned, is this when you have a phrase you use called, and you have a thing you talk about called the velocity of money? Is that what this is all about?
Correct. And it's a cool pun, because I was a baseball player and I tried to throw hard like we all did. And it is the velocity of money, because one of the examples I use in my seminars and when I speak to my clients is if you have $100,000 today and you invest that $100,000 with a financial planner and you get a 5% return, that's going to make you a certain amount of money. It's going to make you $5,000. But if you have that $100,000 and you buy $500,000 worth of real estate, right, because you can put 20% down at 5% return, that's, what is that, $125,000 or no, $50,000 return. My math is fuzzy, but it's 5 times the number. So right. Then remember what we talked about, appreciation is a bonus, but when the thing starts to appreciate, because it will, then it's appreciating at a much greater clip. So the banks give us the opportunity to buy real estate, and we haven't even talked about the millennials or some of those low down payment options, which I'm sure you'll bring up. But it's at 80% of the total. So you can spend X amount of dollars and get 8 times the amount of an asset by buying real estate.
Yeah. So in other words, what you're saying is it's like, as we've been saying the whole time, is real estate is much better investment because you can make a lot more money for today, tomorrow, and next year and your future by investing in the real estate because of how it can compound in and the amount of what you can buy and what the income is on it.
Correct.
Now you mentioned something about millennials and different programs and stuff. Let's talk about that, because what we just talked about has a lot to do with that, but in a different way. So why don't you kick that off and go through that? I believe you call it your 3, 2, 1 and done program.
Yeah. And let me just say one last thing about the other real estate investor. Everyone's always like, well, what if it goes down in value? In my formula, I don't care if it goes up or down in value in any 1, 2, 3, or 5 year period. Why? Because if it has a 13.5% yield and you're getting your cash flow, it's like the idea of, well, the stock went down. Well, you only lose money if you sell the stock, right? You only lose money on this real estate investment if you sell the piece of real estate. If it's giving you 13.5% yield, why would you sell it? Your tenants, in my seminar, I show them how we're going to use the tenants' money to pay off the property in 20 years or less. So if it's giving you a payoff in 20 years or less, which then gives you much more cash flow because you have no mortgage, I want to show people how to put this real estate in a trust and never sell it. It will go up in value. You and I both know there's only been one 7-year period in America where real estate went down in value, which was 2006 to 2013. But now look what's happened since then. So as long as you stay in the property for a certain period of time, it's always going to come back. So I just wanted to, because people always get so caught up in the idea that, oh, what if I buy real estate, it goes down in value? Well, you're not going to buy the piece of real estate unless it has 11.5% or more in yield. And then the value is really not as important.
Absolutely. I mean, it depends on if you sell it. That's if it went down in value, you're going to lose money. But if you don't sell it, hold on to it, it's going to come back eventually anyway.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead with the other program that we started talking about.
Yeah. So the other program is really cool because when I wrote this seminar in 2017, it was based on the premise of yield. And I was going to train real estate investors how to buy the right property. And I was going to train the realtors how to train the real estate investors, because once they're educated, once I educate the realtors on these products, then they have more ammunition to be able to help their real estate investors. But all these other products came out since 2017, what they call non-QM products, that is for a real estate investor. And then I started looking at the owner-occupied lower down payment loans and how we can create a strategy for someone who doesn't own a home yet. And we created 3, 2, 1 and done. So 3, 2, 1 and done is really cool because you start with a 3-unit or possibly a 4-unit, and you buy this property owner-occupied and you live in it for a year or more, and you get an FHA product. The cool thing about that is when you live in the property, you're allowed to use the rents that you get on the other 2 units. So sometimes people that don't necessarily make enough money to borrow $400,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 also get the addition of the rents that they get on that property. The nice thing is FHA has a rule that makes sure that it's got the right cash flow to carry the mortgage if you ever move out of it. So we show millennials how you need to start by buying a 3 or a 4 unit, because you're going to live in it. You're going to get the affordability of only a 3.5% down, which is amazing. On 400,000, it's like 12 or 13,000, and we can include closing costs by doing what they call a seller concession. Then in year 2, they move out of the property. There's a conventional product that allows them to put 5% down on a 2-family. So now you move out of the 3, you buy the 2. Now you have 5 units that you own, and maybe a year after that, then you want to buy your white picket fence single family in the suburbs. The beauty of that is, say somebody says to me, I only have 15,000 total. I can't afford the next down payment. Well, I say to them, the right 3 or 4 family might give you 65 or 70 or 75 or 80% of the mortgage paid for by your tenants.
Right.
And if that's the case, can you save $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month for your next down payment on your next property? Then I take the formula of wanting to pay these properties off in 20 years. So if these properties have $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 a month cash flow today, once they're paid off in 20 years by your tenant, now you're going to have $3,000, $4,000 a month in cash flow per property. America thinks that it's like, if you borrow $300,000, I'm going to have to pay $1,000 a month to pay it off 10 years early. It's actually not. On $300,000 loan, you're only having to pay $300 a month more to pay this property off 10 years early. So my program has people very excited because I'm literally, if they follow my framework, whether it's yield for an investor or it's 3, 2, 1 for a millennial, If they follow my framework and they follow my program and they don't deviate from them, all of these properties will be paid off in 20 years or less. And for the 3-2-1, I say to the millennials, it's $1 million worth of real estate for less than 40,000 out of pocket total. That's the power and leverage of the bank's money and the power and leverage of the tenants paying off those loans for you.
Now, one of the great things about debt, if you've got somebody else paying that debt for you, I mean, it's like, it's great. You made the investment and your money is working for the money rather than your time for your money.
Right.
That's what's great about investing in real estate. Your money is working for you. You're not.
Right.
Correct. And the other thing is, I'm not going to give this away, but if you are a real estate agent, there's a kind of a way for you to have to put less down out of your pocket. But we won't tell them that. If they want to know about that, they can contact you and get that information.
We're calling that the secret. In our last seminar, we called it the secret. We have a little secret that is really good for agents or really good for anybody that wants to become an agent.
Exactly. And so it's a way for them to be able to have a lot more money than we're even talking about. So talk to me about some of the experiences you have. I know you have some success stories with people that have actually done this, and maybe you got some stories you want to share with people like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think that people come to my seminars and leave the seminars really fired up. And what we're really going to start doing is promoting our 3-2-1 and done VIP page on Facebook, because I'm going to start doing weekly tips, and I'm going to start, we did it last seminar, showing through the Facebook page, the seminar live. And some of the people that have come to the seminars, we really started cranking with them about 9 or 10 months ago. Some of the people at the seminars have already bought their 3 families and are itching to buy their 2 families. And I have one young gentleman who I'm friends with his father, who was so fired up at the seminar that we did last spring that he's in contract on a 2-family in Montclair. And the cash flow is ridiculous because a wholesaler got it out of foreclosure, gutted the house completely. It's a beautiful 2-family in Montclair. It has ridiculously high rents. He's going to live in one of the units with one of his friends. And the numbers are astonishing. So it doesn't necessarily have to start with the 3 or 4. It could start with the 2. But there are many people, and that come to us when we give them the path, including people who already own a single family or a condo. At the seminars, I say, well, we all kind of did it backwards, right? The first house I bought was a single family. But that doesn't mean that they can't buy real estate too. We have a formula and an answer for every single person, whether they're 25 years old or 55 years old or 65 years old. It's about identifying the property and calculating the right yield. When we talk about yield with the multi-unit properties and a millennial buying a property, say a 3-family first, and only putting down $12,000 or $13,000, the yield is going to be even better because there's such a low down payment with such a great cash flow return. So it's really been a great success story. We have over 600 people that have come through our seminars, and it's really cool to either get on a call afterwards with them or get on a Zoom call or get them in the office, because anybody could sell an interest rate. I could have the Honda robot sell an interest rate. That's not why I'm doing this. Yes, we make money by writing loans, but more important than that is my goal is to get 5,000 to 10,000 people to retire in America by using real estate, because I believe that without real estate, we all have a problem. And I'm sure you read the Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read it a long time ago. And his definition of wealth is that when your assets are outpacing the income you derive from your assets are outpacing your monthly overhead, right? So if we have to go to work to pay our bills, which, by the way, I still have to, then we're not wealthy. When our assets, say, for example, real estate paid off, is bringing in more revenue than our monthly bills are, we're wealthy because we actually don't have to show up at work that day to pay all our bills. That's what I'm trying to help America get to.
That's fantastic. So do you have any more of these seminars coming up in the near future? Yes,
we have one coming up on October 16th. We also have a paid workshop on October 11th down at the it's 399 Campus Drive in Somerset. That's on October 11th. That's a paid workshop for people that want a real deep dive of how to find properties, how to flip properties, how to wholesale properties, and I go a deeper dive in financing. But the next big seminar that's no charge is on October 16th. Go to the 3-2-1 and done VIP page on Facebook, or 321andDone.com for the location, because we had a location, but I think it's actually going to be too small. So we're going to change where it's going to be, but it's going to be in Union County. So, and then we're also going to do another one in the middle of November. We haven't picked a date yet. That's going to be in Morris County, most likely at the Hyatt in Morristown. But the 321andDone.com page has all the upcoming venues.
That's great. That's great. So if there's one bit of advice that you could give a new investor, what would it be?
Well, it would be to meet me, because I can help them. And it would be to open your eyes. See, the investor already has the mindset that they want to invest. I think flipping is going to be really hard over the next 3 to 5 years in the New York, New Jersey area. I teach people the yield, and I teach people how the reverse yield works, meaning if you're going to think about flipping this and making $20,000 on the flip, think about what the cash flow looks like, and you might want to keep the property. So the new investor, I'd say, meet with us, learn yield, learn what the good rent roll is. I have a good friend of mine who's bought and sold over 300 properties. And when I met him, he has them all on the wall in his office. And I looked at him, I go, man, imagine if you kept all these and they were all paid off. You'd have $300,000 a month coming in. And I made him depressed. But I changed his mindset now to the long-term buy and holds. So the new investor, let's open our minds to not only flipping, but long-term buy and holds. And to people that own a single family, or to people that don't own real estate yet, I'm giving people hope by saying it's not as hard as you think it is. Let the experts like us teach you, because all you have to do is identify the right property, identify the right yield, or move into the right 3-family, and you're on your way. But taking no action is the only way you could fail. Taking some action with the right tutors and the right coaching is going to get them to where they want to go.
Totally agree. I mean, one of the things you just said about flipping is going to be more difficult in the next few years. I mean, I think one of the reasons that's true is simply because there's so many people that want to do it and are thinking of doing it. I've seen some flips lately that people have no right doing it because they want to do the work themselves, and they think they're going to make a fortune on it. That's where things get sketchy, and that's how we had problems before. Right. I mean, I've done it. I know what I'm doing, right? I know what a 2x4 looks like, and I know which end of a hammer to hold. So if I have to do it myself, I know what to do. And you're so right with that thing flipping. Frank, how do people get in contact with you? How do they find you aside from your website, 321andDone.com?
Sure. Yeah. The email address is fdippold, Dippold, at unitedmortgage.com. That's easy. Phone number is 973-214-3945. They can always go to 321andDone.com for the upcoming events. And they could go to the VIP page on Facebook, Morgan. They have to ask us to be invited into the page, right?
Right.
Yeah, you could always friend me on Facebook, or you could go to 321andDone.com, 321andDone VIPs, and join that group, because we're going to start doing our weekly tips of the week, which is not going to be me saying, be your best self. I think that's not who, that's not the guy. Right. It's going to be details on guidelines, changes, how to get into properties, how to get your money in a property, how to get your money out of a property. So those are some of the things we're going to start doing to give tips to our followers.
Okay. And we have one more bit of business to take care of. And I think this is why you're here, because most people come on this show to get one of these, and you've earned it, Frank. I want to thank you so much for coming on with me today. And we're going to get you this hat really soon. Listen, guys, my name is Dave Finale, Real Estate Skill Builder. If you guys have any questions with reference to this or any other real estate issue, please feel free to reach out to myself for investment and all these things that Frank has talked about with yield. Please contact Frank. Thank you so much, Frank, for coming on. Please stay on for a minute. And everybody, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. We have Jeff Van Oak coming on. We're going to talk about opportunity zone investing, another investment show. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Take care.